Open your ears and lube up your butthole. It's time for the What Do We Call It podcast. Now, here's your host. It's J-Man. Welcome to the What Do We Call It podcast. I'm J-Man.
And I'm number one fan, Tim.
For tonight's episode, I'm going to read you a piece of news, which is probably going to trigger you.
Okay.
And then we'll see how you react.
Oh, you know me pretty well. You know how to trigger me.
Are you familiar with the Stephon Clark murder?
Ringing a bell.
Sacramento, was in his backyard, shot at like 20 times, got hit a bunch, and they said he was unarmed and holding a cell phone.
What?
The part they initially left out was that he was seen tampering with vehicles and was running from the police and happened to make it into his grandparents' backyard where he lived, which is where he got shot because he didn't obey orders.
Haven't heard anything about this, actually.
Oh, well, that was like the last black guy to get killed by cops that really, raised the alarm. Okay, well, let me just read you this piece, this update on what's going on. Stephon Clark's autopsy showed he was shot 7 times, and only 2 of the rounds were fatal. His wounds were listed as 1 in the left thigh, 3 in the side, and 3 in the back. This autopsy was performed by Dr. Kenching Su, a forensic pathologist, and peer-reviewed 3 times with similar findings.
Okay.
So, that's the official autopsy. It matched everything this guy came up with. Now, an independent autopsy ordered by his family and performed by a Dr. Bennett Omalu stated he was shot 8 times, with most of the wounds listed as fatal and all in the back. It should be noted that the 8th wound was listed as an exit wound in the previous autopsy, and the county coroner's report also notes traces of cocaine, cannabis, and codeine were found in his system.
Okay.
So here's my point when I read this. This became the latest black guy that was unarmed and killed by cops. I'm not saying he deserved to die. I'm not glorifying that he was murdered by the police, because he was murdered by the police.
Murder.
I don't even need to go down the rabbit hole of, well, don't fuck with other people's cars and get the cops called on you and then run. And then, hold something up that turns out to be a cell phone. I wasn't there, so I don't know, but I mean, it stands to reason that if you don't do things that look like you're breaking the law, people won't call the cops. The point to me bringing this up, this independent autopsy that was ordered by his family, I get it. They want answers. They don't trust the system. They think the government's going to try to cover for itself.
Yeah.
But does it really benefit the cause of easing racial tension in the country when you have a situation such as this, and the black family has a black pathologist perform another autopsy, and then the results are so fudged up, it seems like you're only fueling racial unrest.
It does kind of seem like that. Like, if this, what are the credentials of the pathologist they had do the autopsy?
Well, I'm sure he wasn't just some guy that they know from church.
Well, pretty sure, but what are the credentials? What are his political views? You look at people who do stuff like this all over the world, they'll put their own personal politics into everything.
Absolutely, and I feel like Black Lives Matter, who was, obviously okay with politicizing this, didn't need to do so, because I'm sure it wasn't just white pathologists that peer-reviewed an obvious Asian doctor's autopsy. They're making this a racial issue, the autopsy, when it doesn't need to be.
Yeah. Well, that's what race baiters do. They turn everything... people like that can only see the world through the lens of race. And they're the ones that are... I actually consider more racist than, even the KKK, because they look at everything as race, no matter what race you are.
Yeah.
It's kind of low-level racism. They don't think they're being racist, but they are.
Well, it just harkens back to when this guy died. There were protests all over Sacramento. And people were blocking fans from getting into Sacramento Kings games. And the NBA was just like, what the fuck are we supposed to do?
Now, how's that going to get your message? You're going to piss off everybody that you're trying to get a message to.
Well, that's more in line with the whole thing that's going on in our state, where here in Minnesota, lawmakers said we're going to up the punishment for people that protest on the freeway and block traffic.
So what did they do last weekend or weekend before? They blocked the light rail.
Equally stupid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're just pissing everybody off. Like, I think we've discussed similar things as before. And
we have.
My message remains the same. If you want to get a message out there, you don't piss off the people you're trying to talk to.
Well, you don't do it in a way that disrupts society to the point where it completely takes all of the gusto out of your argument. Because now people are like, oh, these fuckers are blocking I-94 again. Great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then you get idiots that are like tweeting about this, like, oh, run them all down. And when that happened, there was a cop, you may or may not remember this, a cop put something on Facebook where he liked somebody else's comment and commented back about just, using a bulldozer to clear the road.
I'm for that.
Yeah, well, it turns out that he was represented by a law enforcement union that had to defend him against punishment for that shit.
Well, I think that's bullshit. That's what he does in his own time.
Well, it's unfortunate that you can't have your own opinions outside of work and people separate that. But you look at all of this protesting, this seeking additional disruptive justice, I'm going to call it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's bad enough that this guy died. All right? And he, instead of being a human being, he becomes a statistic. So I want you to look at these numbers as I've got them on the screen. Shot 7 times, and only 2 of the wounds were fatal. That's the official one.
I'm guessing it was
performed by the government.
One of the 2 of the 3 that went into his back.
Probably. Or possibly 3 in the side that went and nicked his heart. Either way, internal organs were damaged. Yeah. They were mortal wounds.
Definitely. But then, if they were shot, if there were 20 shots and they only hit him 7 times, that's pretty average shooting. I don't know. I want to say shitty, but I mean, I've never been in a situation like that, and I just, even shooting at 7 yards, I'm kind of all over.
Well, it was at night, and it was dark.
Oh, okay. Well, I say that was good shooting then. Not to change the subject, but...
No, that's... It's moth season again. There's moths in the workshop again.
So the peer review for the 3 times, that's 3 different pathologists looked at his findings? Or has he been reviewed in past for being good at his job?
Well, no, this is... so Dr. Ken Chin Soo was the forensic pathologist who performed the autopsy.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
3 additional pathologists reviewed his findings and agreed with it. And on top of it, and I didn't include this because there was another unofficial review or 2. Multiple people looked at this because they wanted to see it for what it was.
Mm-hmm.
So you have this many professionals all agreeing, and then you have this motherfucker, Dr. Benenomalu. I'm sure he intended well, but really, look at the difference in the findings. 7 shots versus 8. This guy
stated the 8th wound. The 8th wound, the other pathologist said it was an exit wound.
Yes, it was an exit wound. And then when he says that 8 times most of the wounds listed as fatal. Yes, I don't have the exact number, but all in the back. This is his family just looking to put out conflicting information to help their cause. It doesn't help your cause. There's no fucking government conspiracy to change the results of an autopsy for a single black man in America being killed by the cops because it happens so fucking often. If anybody was going to have their autopsy fucked with, it would be Michael Brown or Freddie Gray.
Yeah.
Those were... I'm not saying that this wasn't high profile, but something that... Look what happened to Ferguson after that. Look what happened in Baltimore after that. This helps nobody, and it doesn't get us any closer to processing the information or changing the way that things go in America with people being killed by the police.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would love it if someone would sit down and honestly and objectively give us the statistics for the number of people that were killed by police every year for the last 40 fucking years. And then break it down by color and break it down by city.
I know they have it down by, I think it's the FBI, or it might even be the CDC. They have it, whites, blacks, they have it down by race. But I don't think they have it by city.
Well, the point is they make it sound like this happens all the fucking time. And it seems like it does thanks to the 24-hour news cycle, because once it happens, we get bombarded with it for days and days and days until the next tragedy. Because unfortunately, the news is not about reporting the facts. The news is a attention grab. It's all about ratings.
It's a propaganda machine.
It's fucking
what it is.
Business now. It's all business, which is sad. I mean, you look like all the different broadcasting companies that there are, and I think it was Sinclair or something recently got called out because every one of their stations had their news anchors just almost robotically read this exact same phrasing of this one thing they wanted to put out about the government.
Oh, every freaking...
To call them everybody's tits.
When I used to listen to Rush Limbaugh, it was how it was. He would do a montage every time a major story broke, and it would be, from CNN, MSNBC, all the big, dare I say, liberal outlets, and it's almost the exact same wording every single time. And he's just like, here's the script. They were given the script. They read it, and here it is. And he'd play 6, 7, 8 news drops, and they all start the story the same way. And then he'd like, now listen to this, and then they would report the story the exact same way. It's just like, do these people not go out and do their own research? But that's why it's.
I agree.
You call it the drive-by media.
Suspect. Something like this. What's your opinion? Were the results as different on purpose as a means of drawing extra attention to the murder to help further the cause of organizations like Black Lives Matter?
I do think they did that. I also think they did it so that in a civil suit, they can get more money.
Well, when you have that many different pathologists all agree with the official autopsy, I think you're well out of your realm there to expect there to be a giant payday.
But
like
they get the right judge, there could be a payday.
Well, there's going to be a payday. There will be a settlement. But I think that any official county attorney that's worth their salt that steps in and handles a case like this is going to say, look at your fucking independent autopsy. Look at the difference in the results. Here's the number of medical professionals that agreed with us. Do you not think that we aren't holding your standards of measurement, your quality control in question when it varies that differently? The information's going to get out that, if every wound was fatal, if it was legitimately like that, it would have gotten out.
One can argue that every wound at some point in time could be fatal one way or another. You get shot in the arm, but you don't get it treated, it gets infected. You could die from that.
Yeah.
No, I think the biggest part is racially motivated to try to further the cause. Oh, there's another black innocent person. Wasn't Black Lives Matter or Antifa saying that all police departments need to be disbanded? There shouldn't be any police officers anywhere. I mean, which psychotic group was that?
That sounds like an Antifa mindset, since some of them are anarchists.
But they're the first ones that run to the cops when their shit gets stolen or whatever.
Or a broad gets punched in the face.
Yeah.
Like at Berkeley.
Totally deserves it.
I mean, you can't solve the police killing people issue.
No, they have to make a split-second decision. They want to go home at night just like anybody else would.
Right.
That's why if a cop's pointing his gun at me and he's telling me to get down on the ground, I'm going to get down on the ground because I don't want my ass shot. Don't care if I'm innocent or not. Don't care if I think I have rights. We'll get it all sorted out if I listen and obey. A lot faster.
The interesting thing here for me is that this came out and they immediately put the story out there but then buried it. The news outlets
the local news, okay,
that I look at, and I look at several, and I'm not going to start naming them.
No, don't name them.
Because I don't want to get into people like, you listen to those fuckers. I get my news where I get my news. And then if I read an article on Yahoo, I fucking Google a similar term, and I go to 3 or 4 other news outlets to see how it's being reported elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
All these people were, initially when it happened, immediate line in the sand. Oh, another innocent, unarmed man killed by the cops, and people on the other side are saying, well, it was reported he was tampering with vehicles, and he ran from the cops, and he made it to the yard thinking he was going to get away, and then he held up something that they didn't know what it was, so they assumed it was a weapon and shot him.
Yeah, they want to paint the story. Like, you have to leave out the information that you don't agree with, the information that doesn't paint the story the way you want it painted or tell the story you want it told. So you leave out the information you disagree with. You want people to think this guy is an innocent armed black person who was doing absolutely nothing wrong. He was in his grandparents' backyard in the middle of the night making a phone call. Well, then you leave out the parts where he was seen messing with people's cars and the cops approached. You leave that part out.
You also add the part where he left his children behind and they were asleep in the home, or I don't know. Some shit like that.
I don't know either. But, I mean, that's what the news media becomes. Well, the facts don't fit my narrative, so I'm just going to leave out some of the facts.
Well, thank you, Freedom of Information Act, where anybody can get shit like this and then take it and put a spin on it and then try to cram it down our throats with a political slant.
That's probably why I don't watch any regular news outlets anymore.
Interact with the show on Twitter at What Do We Call It? That is at What Do We Call It? You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/group/What Do We Call It podcast show. For the What Do We Call It podcast, I'm J-Man.
And I'm number one fan, Tim.
And that's the end.